This week we're going to talk about tables. We'll probably cover everything today, actually, and that's actually on purpose to give you guys time to work on the assignments that are due into the week. There's, I believe, 2 separate assignments, and I can choose to, depending upon if you want, we can do um, kind of a little bit of information about tables, which is going to be the first part. And then what tags make up the base tags that make up a table, and then we can look at optional table tags if you're interested. So we can split this over a couple of different so we can do the optional table tags like on Thursday if you would like, or we can do everything today and then give more time on Thursday. But it's really up to you guys. The assignments are due on Thursday, beginning of class, so you might want to say, hey, I'll take an extra half hour or something, and we can talk about assignments and everything else going forward for that. So it's just up to you guys. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. And then let's start working on what is a table inside of HTML. So tables have been around inside of web pages for many, many, many years. They were always designed for the purpose of storing data and what we refer to as tabular data. And that's tabular data is data that can be made up into a series of rows and columns. Unfortunately, before CSS, especially, laying out web pages was a real challenge. HTML was not very good at it. HTML was designed by a bunch of nerdy geeks who didn't care about anything. They were trying to almost replicate, for lack of a better term, like a typewriter. And so you could put in some bigger fonts, you could put some smaller fonts, you could make things bold and italicized and have text. And they relented and added images later on. And the first version, the prefix version, I don't think even had images. But it really was a challenge to lay out a web page and make things look nice. And so what they did is instead they said, well, hey, we'll use images and we'll use tables. And so a lot of designers, there were some tools that came out that lets you do that. And there were several tools. Fireworks had it, Adobe Photoshop had it. You could make up an image and split it up and they would spit out tables. And that caused some problems. And because of those problems that resulted in code that was hard to maintain, it was very inefficient to download and process. Because of that, a lot of people kind of got like a bad taste in their mouth for tables, and they would avoid tables at all costs. And that's not really good either. You know, just like you don't want to use tables incorrectly for a wrong thing, you don't want to not use them when it's the right thing to do. So let's look at how we're going to use tabular data and what we can do with it. So a perfect example of tabular data, and I always like to talk about, is if I'm thinking about like a TV schedule. And if I look at a TV schedule, you know, whether it's online or if you guys remember the old TV guides, there's a little book that came out. One of the things that you could do would be I could go and look down my columns, and that would be how my TV schedule was separated by time. And so if I looked across my very first top row, I would see like 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m., 7 p.m., 7:30, 8, 8:30, etc. Then we broke it up into half-hour blocks. And if I looked down, let's say 9 p.m., I could find all the TV shows that were playing at 9 p.m. Likewise, my rows were split up by TV station. So if I want to look for my local CBS affiliate or ABC affiliate or NBC affiliate, or I want to look in the Sci-Fi channel or whatever, I could look across and see, okay, and I might want to do that because, for example, I know that there is a show coming on, but I can't remember what it is, and I want to make sure that I find the right starting time. And so I can look at things in either a row or a column or both and find information. And that's the whole idea behind tabular data. So that becomes a very important way for us to think about and use our tables. And I have lots of examples of where I can do that. Let me give you another one real quick. This is some information for this spring semester. And if I look at this, this is not really tabular data because while I have some information as far as what my dates are going to be for a given title, this is just real basic information as far as that goes. However, if I come right here and look up Tusculum University finals schedule, and I want to know what classes are going to be offered on what time, even though they didn't choose to put this really in a table. It's, you know, this is a sort of table. This works for us. So, for example, if I have a class that's a Tuesday, Friday class at 8 p.m. or actually 8 a.m., I know that this is my time for my exam. And I kind of go down this whole process. So I can find, in this case, the day of my class, the time of my class, and then I can, you know, bring stuff over. So I know I'm looking for an 8 a.m. class. I can look here and say, oh, okay, here's where it is, or let me see this one, or I can find over on the other side. I might find other ways of looking this up and finding a way to make this into a tabular format. There's not just this idea. I might do, for example, tabular data instead of by grand titles. I might say, okay, show me across the top the times for the exam, and on my first column I might do the day of exam, and then I can say, okay, based upon this I know when my schedule is going to be. Or likewise, I might do my day of my class and my time of class and then plug in what date and time the exam is going to be. So there's lots of ways that we can do that. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to take this table today and of this information and put into a more, what I think is going to be a user-friendly tabular environment. So that's what we're going to do in just a minute. Now, before we get to that, we need to go over a couple of things just to make sure we understand how we're going to do this. Okay, so the tabular data is going to be data that we can look up in rows and columns, but how do we make those rows and columns? And there are some interesting ways that we can get into some more advanced techniques, but it all comes down to being able to do the same basic things that we did way back in like version 2 when tables came out of HTML. Okay, so the first thing we need to know is create a table is not a single tag that works. Okay, it's actually a collection of tags that are used together to create our table. The first thing we're going to have is a table tag, and it has an open and closing tag, and this is like a container. If I create a table tag, nothing is going to appear. And to show this, I've got a table example here, just some basic stuff. Oops, I need to put that as a table example. You see what happens when you do copy paste. And if I come in here and say table, and then I put my closing table tag, I save this and I say I want to go view and view the current file in Chrome. Notice that nothing shows up where that table is. Okay, that's because it's just a container that's going to hold the rest of my information. I need to break it down into rows and then individual cells. And that's how my CSS, or that's how my HTML is going to work with a table, is I then break my table, my container element, into smaller sections. The first section I'm going to look at is going to be my table row, or my TR tag. Okay, TR stands for table row, and every time I create a new TR tag, it's going to add a new row for me. So I'm just going to go down the list, and I need to have closing TR tags. Now, if I come in here and say table row, I don't put any text within my table row. If I save this and I come over here to my CSS file, you're going to notice there is still, I reloaded it, there's still nothing to see. That's because I have to put some data into some cells. And without my cells, I'm going to have a real problem. So I've got two main types of cells, or they're not main. I have two types of cells I can put stuff in, okay? The first is going to be my TH tags. TH is my table header cells. My second is TD, my table data cells. My header is going to be things that let me describe what it is I'm looking at. So if we come back here and I say, I want to create this into what I think is a little bit more user-friendly view, I'm going to look for the day of my class and time of my class to be able to look up some information, okay? So I'm going to, then based upon how that information is laid out, I'll put in my cells, days of the exams and stuff like that, okay? So I'm going to do across my top, I'm going to put in my class times I expect. And I want these to stand out because these are table headers. So I'll use TH and I'll do 8 a.m. and I'll do a closing TH. I'm going to create a couple more of these because I'm going to have 9:30, 11, 12:30, and this becomes PM, and then I'll have 2 p.m. And when I save this and reload this, you'll now see across the top. Okay, all in one row. That's exactly how I expect it to be. Okay, all in one row. Now, one problem I am going to have, and I'm going to show you this when I do this so I'm going to make a small mistake on purpose. Don't worry, I'm doing this on purpose. Is I now need to put in a new table row. Oops. I'm going to have a day. So this is going to be Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, and then for those odd classes that are on a Wednesday, we'll do that. Okay. Now, this has two mistakes that I want you when I reload it, I want you to see if you can figure out if we're supposed to line this data up over rows and columns. I want you to see if you can identify the two mistakes, and then secondly, how might we solve these problems? Okay, so let me reload this right quick. Okay, and you see I've got my times and I have my days. Now, do you see the two problems? One's going to be a little bit more obvious than the other. I'll give you a hint. If you are stuck, you don't have a question, you guys have some reactions that you guys can use. So I think there's like a thumbs up, and there is a hand clap or something like that. So use the one other than the thumbs up if you don't see either one of them. I think, like I said, I think it's a hand clap. And feel free just to unmute yourself and kind of shout out an answer if you think you see the two issues.
Well, the first issue is that the times are moved a little bit from the days, like they are not in the same um, spots where they should be, you know, like right on top of the days.
Yes. Yes. So exactly. So the first issue that we have is that the days are all in one row and they should be aligned vertically, not underneath the given time. So you are correct. That is the first issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, and after Monday, Thursday, I'll put a closing TR tag and then do a new opening TR tag. And the magic of copy and paste, I'll do that after Tuesday and Friday as well. So now I have columns of information and I have rows of information when I reload. So there still is one error, and this one is now more obvious now that we fixed this issue. It should be a little bit more obvious. And so if you see it, go ahead and shout it out. I'll give you guys a minute to kind of look at it and go, okay, what is this and how do we fix this? Okay. So while you're looking at this, you might be going, well, it looks right, but there's probably something that's nagging at you and you can't quite figure out what it is. And that is, if you look under the 8 a.m. column, we have all of our days listed here. So how can we put any relevant information? Okay, we need to be setting up a grid work, and I don't have a grid work which is going to be able to show. I actually need to have a little blank spot right here. And that's where my days are going to go. So the way I'm going to fix this real quick is I'm going to come in here and put an empty table data cell, MBSP, that stands for non-breaking space. Now I can look and line things up rows and columns. I do have a couple of issues with this. So it's a little harder to read / see. So I'm going to want to put in some basic borders to help me line stuff up. And there's a couple of ways that I can do this, but I'm going to do this after I fill in my dates. So I'm not going to do this right away. I'm going to show you how to do the CSS in just a couple of minutes. What we want to do is we want to fill in our sections. So if I look at Monday, Thursday at 8 a.m., I can come over here and say Monday, Thursday, let's see here, Monday, Thursday, 8 a.m. Okay, Monday, Thursday, 8 a.m. This is going to be May 7th at 8 a.m. So my first column is going to be TD 57, 8 a.m. Okay. Tuesday, Friday, 8 a.m. is going to be May 5th at 8 a.m. So these are TD because we are looking at table data cells, not headers. And if I come back here and just do a quick refresh, you can see how it fills them in the right column, because each time I make a new table cell, it says, okay, go to the next column over. Okay. Wednesday, 8 a.m. is going to be May 6th at 8 a.m., so that's easy. I come down here, copy, paste, and fix that. All right, our next column is going to be 9:30. So Monday, Thursday, 9:30 is going to be Thursday at 10. Let's see here. Thursday is at the 8th. Thursday is 7th. Tuesday, Friday, 9:30 is going to be Tuesday at 10. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Wednesday, there is none. So since there's going to be none, I was going to do TD. So it's empty. Okay. I always want to make sure I have any cells because CS or HTML is really stupid as far as this goes. I do have another Wednesday class for 12:30, but big but. If I didn't leave this blank space here, it would just put it right next to me in my second column. So that would be a real problem. So I want to make sure that even if my cell doesn't have any data, I still put a table data cell and I just leave it empty. That's a real important thing to do. Okay. After my 9:30 a.m., I have an 11 a.m. So let's see here, Monday, Thursday, 11. That's going to be Thursday at noon. I'm going to assume that's going to be the same. So here, Tuesday, Friday, 11. Yep, Tuesday at noon. Wednesday, there is no 11. So I'm going to come down here, another blank cell. Now I'm looking at 12:30. 12:30 for Monday, Thursday is Thursday at 2. I'm betting 12:30 for Tuesday, Friday is at 2. Okay, so we're good as far as that goes. Okay. And then Wednesday, we do have a 12:30, and that's going to be Wednesday at noon. Okay, finally, 2 p.m. classes, Monday, Thursday. 2 p.m. is going to be on Wednesday at 2 p.m. So that's the 6th at 2 p.m. And Tuesday, Friday, 2 p.m. is Wednesday the 6th at 10 a.m. Okay. And there is no Tuesday, Thursday, or excuse me, there is no Wednesday at 2, so we're going to once again have a empty cell. Okay. Now, if I come back here and reload it, now look how I can find my data pretty easily. I say I have a Monday, Thursday class at 8 a.m. When is it? It's on 5/7 at 8 a.m. I have a Tuesday, Thursday at 10, or excuse me, a Tuesday, Thursday class that's at 11 a.m. Well, I go Tuesday, Thursday, I follow along until I get to 11, and here's my final exam. So this becomes a lot easier to do as far as that goes, but is this really easy to follow? Would anyone call that easy to follow? Don't all jump out at once. Feel free to say it sucks. I'll give you a hint. It sucks. Anyone? No one's willing to say it? Okay. What's wrong with this table? Well, there's a few things wrong with it. First off is all my data is just crammed together, so I have a hard time seeing where my table cells start and end. It all just kind of jumbles together. Does anyone else feel that way? You can give me like a thumbs up in the little reaction thing. If you look at it and go, yeah, it's all jumbled together. This is a good idea, but it was a bad execution. Okay? So feel free to give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you're listening and that you think the data is just too jam-packed together. No one. No one? Okay. So, all right. So let's look at how we can make this easier to read. And we're going to do this with a little bit of CSS because while this is a better format for data, and I think this is a lot easier to read than this. At this point, this is way, way worse. So let's look at how we're going to fix this. Okay, so I'm going to come up here, and I don't care about my images right now, so I'm going to delete that. I'm going to create a table, and I'm going to specify my border. And I'm going to just say 1 pixel, black, and it's going to be solid. And if I do that, notice it puts a nice little border around my table, but it does not put anything for my columns or my rows, okay? So all it is just around my table. So I'm gonna come over here and say TD, and I want this to apply to both my table data cells and my table headers. So I'm gonna say TD, comma, TH, and I'm gonna come in with the same thing, border, 1 pixel. I'm gonna do a dark gray. It's also gonna be solid. If I reload this, now is this information a little bit easier to see and read? I would hope you would think yes. Okay. That makes it a whole lot easier to read, does it not? Because now I can kind of see what data is separated in. My data isn't all jam-packed. Now I do have a lot of vertical lines going on, and a lot of horizontal lines, because every cell has a border around it, but there's a little bit of space in between, or a little bit of margins in between each one. So let's show you how we're going to fix that real quick. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to add some padding. I guess just say like 5 pixels. And when I do that, this gives me my space between my text and my inside border. And then I'm going to say margin 0. And my margin 0 didn't work. Okay, which is kind of weird. And the reason why is very simple. Tables kind of beat to their own drum, for lack of a better word. So not everything works exactly the same way as you would expect. My padding worked perfectly. Margins not so much. We'll fix that in a little bit. Don't worry. But I think the padding gives you a little bit more space to make it a little bit easier to work with. If I do cell spacing, see if that works. Oh, okay. Cell spacing was an older one. I didn't think it still worked, but I figured it was worth a shot. Okay. Another thing that a lot of people do, and I think is really helpful, is they put on what's called zebra striping. Okay? Zebra striping. And zebra striping is the idea of where we have alternating lines or alternating background colors for our alternating rows. Okay? And this is designed to make it so I can kind of take my mouse cursor and take my eyes and kind of go across, and I'm like, oh, I'm still in such and such. So I know I'm where I need to be. Okay? And that's the whole idea behind it and what it's trying to do. So let's look at that real quick. And there's 2 main ways of being able to do this. I can say something like tr.odd. And if I say tr.odd, I can give a slight background color. And instead of being white, I'll go kind of an off-white CCC. It's a background color. Just to kind of give it a little bit of contrast. I don't want a lot. I just want enough so I can like visually see. The problem with this, and I can come in here and do the same thing for even if I wanted to. My problem is I now have to apply this class, odd class, to every table row that I want to apply it, that I want to be odd. And that may not be the best option for me. May not be the worst option for me, but it may not be the best option for me, because especially if I have to go in and take out a row or add a row, and it's like in the middle somewhere, now I have to manually apply all those odd rows. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a pseudoclass selector. Now, we've seen this before. A perfect example of this was when we used the hover. A pseudoclass is colon and then some value. I'm going to say colon nth child. And I can put a number in there, and that number will say, like, on the fourth element, or I can do something that says every third element. So every third row. But I also have the ability to say odd and even. And now if I come back here real quick and reload this, notice that all of my odd ones instantly got the background. I didn't have to apply a class to anything. I let the CSS in the computer figure out who should be odd, who should be even, and start applying data. If I only want it to be on the even ones, I could do on the even ones. All I had to do was change that little thing inside those parentheses from odd to even. And so it becomes a really fast and easy way. I remember when we had to apply a class to everything, because this wasn't available in all the browsers. Nowadays it is, but originally it wasn't, and so we had to just keep things up. So, but I think you'll find that this is a whole lot easier to read and work with. I can even come in here and specify border top 2 pixel. Okay. So notice that if I put the border on the table row, however, it does not work. Okay. You might say, well, wait a second, how come it didn't work? It was supposed to. You're right, supposed to, but it didn't. And so this goes back to how our tables don't necessarily behave exactly the same way with all of our properties in CSS. They do a great job and they handle most of them, but this is just one of those weird things where all of them don't necessarily work. There are ways we can go in. We can specify our table spacing to be collapsed. That takes out these little vertical lines here. It makes it so we just have single lines for our data. There's some other things that we can do, but a lot of stuff is just not quite as simple. We have to kind of look at that. We can get into really, really detailed things, and we can do a whole bunch on looking at some different rules in CSS and looking them up online. We can find out how to do them. We can even pick different colors. So we're not going to worry about that too much. Now, this right now is one big image. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. If I say inspect, this is just an image. Now, it is picked up by Canvas, which is kind of funky that they did it that way instead of some other ways. If this had been regular text, we could have a regular table. We could have come in here and highlighted and gotten those colors, but that's a different story for a different day. So we won't worry about grabbing those colors. But that's why I can't. If you ever notice, you can't like select things or copy and paste it real easily. It's because it's not text for a table. They're building out separately. Okay. Any questions on the table so far, what you've seen? We looked at what is tabular data. We've looked at the table tag, the TR tag, the TH, and the TD. You'll notice by default the TH is bold. That's its biggest difference, and it's centered. The TD cells are left justified for text. So bold and center for table header, left and not bold, normal font weight for the other. If you're good, I think you guys got like a thumbs up. Let me know that you're good so far.
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. All right. Awesome. Others? Okay. So, uh, since we are, this hasn't taken much time. Do you guys need the time to work on the other information, or would you like me to cover the alternate or the additional optional tags for tables now? Thumbs up for covering optional table tags, or feel free to take you off mute. If you're on mute, I don't know that you're talking. Just it doesn't give me any indication at all. Okay. So no one mentioned wanting to cover the optional tags right now. We'll do that on Thursday, and we'll go over a little bit more CSS with the tables on Thursday, and that's fine. We have plenty of time to do that. So I'll give you this time so you can work on, like I said, you got 2 more homework assignments that are due today. Or not, sorry, not today, on this week, on Thursday. So I'll give you guys some time to work on that. I'll stay on if you guys have any questions or you need me to review anything or help you with anything. I'll be more than happy to stay on.